And I'm Lowell. And this is our guest, Scott. Scott, hi.
Hi, Laura.
Hi, Scott.
Hi, Laura.
Pleasure to meet you.
Laura's going to tell you a little bit about our guest and the Tolstoy Foundation, where we are in Rockland County now, on, for what is to me, the other side of the Tappan Zee Bridge, because I grew up, in Elmsford. And Scott and I both went to the same high school, Hackley. Laura, and pass this over to you. What are we talking about now with Scott?
Well, I'm just amazed to hear that Scott has been to Russia 18 times, and I want to know the story about the Tolstoy Foundation. And Scott, you're very interesting, and I'd love to hear about your trips.
How'd you get to Russia 18 times or 2 times or 1 time? What's going on? To Russia with love.
Russia with
To
love.
Russia with love. Here we go.
Here we
Scott?
One of my first trips, the most fascinating, I think, we went on a family reunion. The Chertkov family. Nikolai Chertkov actually taught Russian at Hackley, where I was a student for the last 12 years. We went to the places in Russia that the Chertkovs had influence in the 18th and 19th centuries. Went to Moscow, to Voronezh, south to Olkhovatka, Khvoshchevatka, Lizinovka, Rosash, Boguchar, places like that. And we spent 2 weeks touring the country and getting to know the people. So that was one of my first trips there.
What year was that?
That was in 1999.
And the Soviet regime had fallen on December 31st, 1991.
Correct.
I remember watching that on TV. At midnight, the Soviet flag went down, the old Tsarist flag went up, and they played the old Russian national anthem.
Correct.
Amazing to watch a country legally decide we're going to turn ourselves off, more or less with no violence. It's pretty unprecedented. The world's largest landmass empire,
Sure.
bigger than the Mongols, decided we're going to cease to exist on December 31st, 1991, and they did. So you went there in 1999. Was it already in a state of economic and social chaos at that point?
My first trip actually was in 1992 when the Soviet Union had just fallen.
Wow.
And so they, in the interim, the entire currency had changed over. They renamed all the streets and all the metro stations, and there was a lot of stuff to buy, and it was rather expensive for the people. Then I returned in 1994, and the economy was in complete turmoil, and the ruble then was 4,800 to 1, and although people had a lot of money, there was absolutely nothing to buy. And so I watched as the history of New Russia basically unfolded in front of my eyes. Since that trip in 1992, I indeed have been back 18 times.
18
Incredible.
times over a 21-year period means
yes.
about once a year you're going to Russia.
Actually, it was, in the beginning, I went 3 times a year for several years, and I haven't been back since 2007.
When you go to Russia, Russia's a big place, even now that it got a little smaller than when it was a Soviet empire. Do you go all over Russia or to specific areas?
Mainly to Moscow, to St. Petersburg, and to Voronezh, where most of my friends are.
That's wonderful, Scott. I was always fascinated with the circuses in Russia because they have their own circus schools in
They do.
Russia. And I'm a circus performer.
Laura is
I
a
was,
circus aerialist and a
Circus
former
aerialist.
rodeo cowgirl.
And
So you know people in the Russian, real people,
Yes,
real Russian performers.
Russian performers, and they love the bears. There's many acts. I have a circus all with Russian bears that are performing bears, and they have.
Where's that circus with the bears?
It's called the Moscow State Circus.
And have you been to Russia? You met
No,
them when
they came here, and I saw them here
Did you
in New
perform
York.
with any of them?
No, but they're.
You saw them?
I saw them right in my backyard at the College of Mount St. Vincent in Riverdale. They came to the school and they performed in the auditorium, and it was fascinating. And one of the Wallendas did her high wire act on the Moscow State Circus.
Laura's referring to the Wallenda family, her personal friends and professional colleagues. As some of you may know, Nick Wallenda, Laura's
Yes.
friend, just walked over the Grand Canyon, and I was glad I didn't watch it. It might have made him nervous. I might have sent out psychic emanations. He could have, tripped or something.
But they're a very big family, and I know many of the family members, and I just am amazed with the country, the dance and the art and the gymnastics. I remember Nadia Comaneci was one of the world-renowned gymnasts, and I love the dance and the ribbons that they use, the ribbon dance and ballet, and there's so much history. So
Scott, when you've been to Russia on your 18 visits, did you have any interaction with people in the circus world, which is Laura's world?
No.
Probably the arts world in general, but not the circus world.
Not the circus, no. Although I had seen the Moscow Circus in '95 for one performance.
oh, how nice.
So when you go to Russia, what kind, it's usually for the foundation then?
It's half and half. It's for my own personal enjoyment, and the other half for the other foundation, in addition to the Tolstoy that I work for, the Cherkov Memorial and Cultural Foundation. As
Your
I mentioned,
family has a foundation.
my Russian teacher in high school, Nikolai Cherkov, had founded a foundation
Wonderful.
upon knowledge of what his family had left in the 18th and 19th centuries. So I've been going back and forth and doing research for him and collecting biographic information and history of those family members.
But your family is also named Cherkov.
No,
No, sorry about that.
my family, Okin, they came from Kiev in 1898 and resettled in the Bronx.
So you're working with the Tolstoy Foundation, which is where we are, and in the back this is a painting, etching, a drawing of Moscow circa, when would that be, this painting behind us? What year would you say that is?
Probably in the 1890s, early 1900s.
And it's Moscow?
Beautiful
It's two photographs joined and then repainted. The colors of
So it's a photograph which is
Yes.
then touched up with paint?
Correct.
Okay, and that's 1890s Moscow.
Correct.
That's what we have in the background. We're at the Tolstoy Foundation, and Scott also works with the Cherkov Foundation.
Yes.
What does the Cherkov Foundation do?
The Cherkov Foundation is currently raising funds and promoting the idea of what the family left in Russia in the 18th and 19th centuries. Nikolai Sergeyevич's great-great-greats founded Alexander Dmitrievich Cherkov founded the first public library in Moscow in 1871. Mikhail Ivanovich Cherkov, through his work for Catherine the Great, was granted property in the south, 12,000 acres, much land where the village of Cherkovo was founded. There was a cathedral built by one of his relatives in Khvoshevatka. Alexander Dmitrievich also founded a sugar factory in Olkhovatka, which is still in operation today, 140 years later. And of course, the most popular of the Cherkov clan was Vladimir Grigorich Cherkov, who was a confidant, friend, and publisher of the famous Leo Tolstoy.
You mentioned Catherine the Great as a historical footnote for our viewers. She was from a German family, and The Tempest, who wrote The Tempest, about the rebellion of Pugachev against Catherine the Great, and he almost beat her, but Catherine had a general named Suvorov, and Suvorov was able to finally put down the rebellion with great difficulty because, like Spartacus with his rebellion against Rome, Pugachev was a real Russian, which he never ceased reminding Catherine of. I'm a real Russian, you're an imported imposter. We don't want you, we want to be ruled by ourselves. And for better or worse, history was that Catherine won, and Pugachev and his team didn't. Who wrote The Tempest is written by some great Russian writer. I don't know his name, but I saw the movie. I thought it was a good movie. So, you go to Moscow primarily.
Yes.
To visit.
Correct.
And how's Russia doing? You've been there 18 times. The last time was 6 years ago.
Correct.
Did you see a slow but steady recovery after the fall of communism? As the country put itself back together?
Basically, yeah.
And you can see the benefit of the oil. Is the government getting the money from the oil revenues to the people?
That I'm not sure.
Okay. So what else would you like to tell us about the foundations in your fascination with Russian literature, language, culture, people, history, for our first interview while we're here?
When I was 10 and we found out that we're indeed a quarter Russian, my curiosity got the better of me, and I decided that I wanted to pursue that avenue of all the nationalities that we have in the family. And since the Tolstoy was right down the street from our house at the time, I came in 1987 to volunteer, and here I met many pre-revolutionary Russians, and with whom I befriended and was able to study the language and history and culture. And I met many amazing people during that time. So I've been with the foundation now for 26 years, and I'm quite happy.
What an honor, Scott. I'm just so impressed. I'm learning so much just talking with you in this interview. It's incredible.
This foundation was established in 1940 by Tolstoy's daughter.
Yeah, basically in 1939, Alexandra Tolstaya, the 12th child and youngest daughter of Leo Tolstoy, founded the foundation with the help of Tatiana Shaufus, with the goal of helping those refugees who were in war-torn Europe flee from religious and political persecution, to come to this country and get a new start and learn English and better themselves that way. In the first full year of operation in 1946, she helped 6,500 refugees come from Europe and resettle here. Since then, in 1956, the foundation helped the Hungarian refugees from their revolution. In 1968, the Czechoslovakians. In 1971, the Ugandan Indians. In 73 through 75, the Laotians and Vietnamese refugees. And of course, with the fall of the Soviet Union, those Russians who came abroad for assistance as well.
Scott told us that at this point, it's now July 2013, there are only 15 Russian refugees left, and all of them at this point were born after the 1917 Menshevik and 1918 Bolshevik revolutions. And they live nearby in a retreat center where they're taken care of very, very nicely. And we hope in time we will be helping some of these surviving refugees share their stories with you. Laura, you got any other questions or comments before we conclude our first interview with Scott?
I just want to thank you, Scott, because I've been educated to learn so much beauty and history and culture within this foundation, and I want to thank you for giving us this interview.
It's absolutely been my pleasure.
It was brilliant, and it's like a hidden gem. I've come over to Rockland County many times, and I never knew that this was here, and it's just goes to show how important it is to tell that story. And thank you very much.
So we say to Scott, spasiba, thank you in Russian,
Thank you,
and
Scott.
do svidaniya, see you later. And that's what we say to you. And we're looking forward to our next interview with Scott,
Definitely.
and with Russian refugees, Jewish or otherwise,
Yes.
to share their stories with the world. And thanks to our viewers for watching and listening.
Wonderful.